Chapter 71 An Unexpected Acquaintance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The wind whipped sand across the ground. Raza, the fourth Kazekage, resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, glanced first at Scorpion, his recent opponent and clearly a sand village puppeteer. Then, he fixed his gaze on Orochimaru, his eyes burning with murderous intent. Orochimaru. Like the third Kazekage, his death had been a raw deal. He'd never expected Orochimaru, supposedly an ally, to stab him in the back. Even in death, he couldn't grasp the guy's motives. Long time no see, fourth Kazekage. Orochimaru greeted him with a smile. Thanks to Kabuto Yakushi's frantic efforts and the maze-like layout deep within the underground base, he'd managed to complete the reincarnation jutsu before Akatsuki could catch him. He hadn't gotten Sasuke's body, but at least he'd regained enough power to handle Akatsuki for now. But today was going way off script. It was like some unseen hand was messing with everything. Orochimaru's golden, snake-like eyes glinted coldly. He swore he'd find out who was pulling the strings. Where am I? Another voice cut through the tension. Besides the fourth Kazekage, someone else had been summoned. Retsu looked around, utterly confused. Raza, recognizing him, spoke respectfully. First Kazekage, we're in the present. We've been summoned by the impure world reincarnation. Reincarnation. Retsu murmured. The impure world reincarnation had really taken off after Hashirama Senju's death, back when Tobirama Senju, free from restraints, was in charge. The heads of the major ninja villages all deferred to the second Hokage back then, so it was no surprise Retsu didn't get it. Before he could ask more, Orochimaru interrupted. Alright, enough with the reunion chatter. Let's not repeat Yuro Gengetsu's little episode. With that, Orochimaru began weaving hand signs, preparing to fully control the first and fourth Kazekage. Yuro Gengetsu. Why bring him up? Retsu was taken aback. After all these years, he was hearing the name of someone who'd left a real mark on him from some punk, but time was short, and Orochimaru wiped him out before he could learn more. The first Kazekage's brief return to the world ended there. Now, Orochimaru said to Scorpion, a nasty smile on his face, it's time for a sand ninja war. The first and fourth Kazekage versus him. Boring. Scorpion, who'd turned the third Kazekage into a puppet, couldn't care less about some sand ninja showdown. He ignored Orochimaru's kind offer. The battle between Akatsuki and Orochimaru started up again, unaware that one of his old buddies had been hanging around. Yuro Gengetsu was busy hauling Sasuke through the ninja world. The ninja world was full of countries, besides the Big Five and the occasional mention of Wave Country, Hot Springs Country, Rice Field Country, Snow Country, and so on. There were tons of tiny, no-name places too small to even show up on a map. Sometimes, a place the size of a village would call itself a country, even if its leader lived worse than a regular rich guy. But hey, a title's a title. Scorpion's so-called destroying a country usually meant wiping out one of these micronations. The place Yuro Gengetsu was taking Sasuke was one of these. Key country. Nobody's heard of it, except for wandering ninja, bounty hunters, and black market types. That's because a ninja outfit called Suachin Village sells intel there. I've been here. After 2 days of travel, Sasuke, now far from the land of fire, pointed to a steel bridge spanning a deep ravine. It was where Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, and the rest of them had done that prisoner exchange. The prisoner Konoha was trading, if he remembered right, was a woman named Ali who had something going on with Kakashi. Whatever. Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't care. He led Sasuke to the bridge. A group of people waited there. Soon, the two groups met. The old man leading the group got all choked up when he saw Hagoromo Gengetsu. It's you. It really is you. Just like I remember. Master, I can finally see you again. The old man dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face, and bowed low to Hagoromo Gengetsu, who looked like his grandson. The men and women behind him followed suit, looking awestruck. Yuyi Xuanyue stepped forward, helped the old man up, and motioned for the others to rise. He sighed softly. Mu Ting, it's been a long time. That snot-nosed kid was now an old man weathered by time. Looking at the wrinkles on his face, Yuyi Xuanyue could still see the kid's face in his mind's eye. Sasuke, watching the warm scene, felt like something was off. If Yuyi Xuanyue and the old man switched places, that would make sense. He'd never really thought about it before, but seeing this made him realize that he was following someone who'd come back from the dead for a second shot at life. He was still young with his whole life ahead of him. Sure, it was weird, but he wasn't jealous like others might be, not into this emotional reunion. Sasuke scanned the crowd. He already knew who the old guy was. He'd been the leader of Suachin village, the one who negotiated with Konoha during the prisoner exchange. When the war broke out, he, Naruto, and Sakura had cornered him, trying to get him to surrender, but the guy had blown himself up. They'd been so naive back then. The old guy had obviously faked it. He'd pretended to die, but he'd slipped away. Konoha's ninja games just waste people's time. With that thought, Sasuke turned his attention to the people behind the leader. He quickly spotted a striking woman in the crowd. "You're not dead?" Sasuke couldn't help but ask. The woman with the teardrop mole under her right eye looked at him. After a pause, she smiled. "You're Kakashi's student, Uchiha Sasuke, right? Long time no see. Do you remember my name?" "Ali," Sasuke said, memories flooding back. Chapter 73 Welcome Home Sharingan Feast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fortunately, things have taken a turn for the better. Yuyi Xuanyue's arrival immediately unified the scattered Yui clan. That's the kind of prestige and charisma you expect from the strongest leader in 1,000 years. After learning the full story of the Yui clan from Mu Ting, and smoothly retaking power, Yuyi Xuanyue looked at the aging Mu Ting and was reminded of someone. A flicker of sadness crossed his face, but he quickly suppressed it, sighing softly. "You're the only one left from the old clan." Mu Ting remained silent for a moment before replying in a raspy voice. It's never easy for a clan to move and splinter. Over time, sickness and fighting always take their toll. Ninjas in the Warring States period had short lifespans. Even in the early days of the ninja villages, the influence of the Warring States period meant that many ninjas with injuries or serious wounds died from illness before they could enjoy a few years of peace. Living like the Konoha F4 required not only advanced medical support, but also a luxurious lifestyle. The Yui clan's relocation was, of course, turbulent, marked by bloodshed. Speaking of which, the Uchiha clan really stepped up to help during the whole relocation. Mu Ting added. Yuyi Xuanyue had heard some of this from Samui, but Mu Ting, who had lived through it, knew more of the details. Mu Ting explained, after all, the Uchiha and Yui clans had been allies for years. Even with less contact after Konoha was founded, the friendship was still there. Plus, there were frequent marriages between the two clans. Even though the Yui clan didn't actively ask for assistance during the relocation, the Uchiha clan still sent some ninjas to lend a hand. "Does Konoha know about this?" Yuyi Xuanyue asked. Mu Ting shook his head. "No. The Uchiha clan sent people secretly." Yuyi Xuanyue understood. Despite the Uchiha's arrogance and reputation for being difficult, they were trustworthy friends. If anyone else had shown such a willingness to help the Hagoromo clan, Mu Ting and the others would have been suspicious, but the Uchiha, if they really wanted something from you, they'd just take it by force instead of pretending to be nice and stabbing you in the back. Besides, the big clans usually only cared about their own interests. However, because of the nature of the Sharingan, the Uchiha often let their emotions get the better of them, like secretly helping the Hagoromo clan without Konoha's permission. If Konoha found out, the Uchiha standing in the village would definitely suffer. The reason the Uchiha did it wasn't for profit, but out of years of friendship, marriage ties, and the Uchiha who had married into the Hagoromo clan, like Mitani, whose wife's maiden name was Uchiha. "Clan head, the boy you brought back this time is the Uchiha orphan, Sasuke, right? What are you planning to do with him?" Remembering his wife secretly pinching his waist before, Mu Ting asked cautiously. Seeing Mu Ting's expression, Yuyi Xuanyue waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, I won't have you going home to sleep on the couch." Samui, head of the Yui clan in the Land of Lightning, hadn't hesitated to mention Mu Ting's fear of his wife when discussing the current state of the Yui clan. "Uchiha Sasuke isn't a prisoner here. If your wife and those others want to see him, they can go ahead." As he spoke, a surprised look crossed Yuyi Xuanyue's face. Like a butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon, causing a hurricane in Texas. The Yui clan's presence across the country and its continued development had created a significant ripple effect. For instance, before the Uchiha clan massacre, some Uchiha sensed trouble. To be safe, they secretly contacted the Yui clan's hidden network, quietly forged death certificates for a few Uchiha, smuggled them out of the village, and sent them here. "What's that Uchiha's name?" Yuyi Xuanyue asked. "Uchiha Setsuna," Mu Ting replied wistfully. "He was the one who suggested supporting the Yui clan and personally escorted them the whole way." On the streets of Suachian village, Sasuke, hands in his pockets, followed Ali, looking bored. If he had a choice, he'd rather be training than wandering around this village, which was similar to Konoha but smaller and less developed. But Yuyi Xuanyue was different from Kakashi, or even Orochimaru. He couldn't refuse the order. If it were anyone else, he might be resentful, but Sasuke, despite his rebellious nature, had one redeeming quality: he willingly obeyed those he truly respected. Kakashi, in Sasuke's eyes, was just average, and Orochimaru was a creep. After a while, Ali seemed to receive instructions and led Sasuke away from the busy streets to a quiet mansion. Sasuke looked around and asked casually, "Why are you bringing me here?" Ali stopped at the gate, raised his right hand, and gestured invitingly. "Someone inside wants to see you, Sasuke." "See me?" Sasuke, who wasn't worried about danger on Yuyi Xuanyue's territory, didn't hesitate. He stepped through the gate and followed Ali to a room. "Go on in. There's a surprise waiting for you." Ali, who knew Sasuke's background, pointed to the door, signaling Sasuke to enter alone. Looking at Ali's bright smile, Sasuke didn't bother overthinking it. He strode to the door, but as he reached out to push it open, his hand paused for some reason, and he felt uneasy. He couldn't explain why he felt that way. He was aware that Ali was right there, watching him, not wanting her to get the wrong idea. Sasuke scoffed inwardly and pushed the door open forcefully. Squeak! The harsh sound of the opening door echoed. Sasuke stepped inside and found the room much darker. Ignoring the darkness, he looked forward and saw an old woman with striking black hair, her appearance and demeanor strangely familiar. She sat in the main seat, looking at him with kindness. But it wasn't just the old woman. Sasuke noticed a dozen men and women with black hair and black eyes standing on either side of her. All of them were young adults, no old people, no children. Unlike the old woman's kindness, these people looked at him with mixed emotions. There was excitement, relief, pity, and even hatred. Sasuke didn't know these people and couldn't understand the complexity in their eyes, until the old woman, seated with grace and poise, said to Sasuke with a loving smile, "Child, welcome home." As her voice faded, everyone's eyes closed and opened, and in that moment, pairs of bright red Sharingan blazed in the darkness. P.S. Thanks to the book friend NSF Jew for the 500 reward. Chapter 74 I will kill Uchiha Itachi. I swear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the dimly lit room, dozens of Sharingan eyes blazed like magnificent rubies. Sasuke stared, speechless. 1,000 words fought for release, but none escaped his lips. He'd imagined countless scenarios after defecting from the village, good and bad, but he never dared to dream that the scene haunting his nights for the past 5 years would materialize so vividly before him. Uchiha, Uchiha. Without conscious thought, Sasuke's three-tomo Sharingan activated, tears streaming from eyes that had only known blood. Normally, he'd be mortified, but joy consumed him, rendering him oblivious. Ali was right. This was a huge surprise. "Good boy," the old woman, formerly Uchiha Anki, now Hagoromo Anki, beamed, seeing Sasuke's tearful elation and the fully awakened Sharingan. "Welcome home, Sasuke. It may not be the Uchiha homeland, but home is where family is, right? You are." Sasuke finally found his voice, choking back tears. "As you can see, Sasuke, we're Uchiha too. We quietly left before the massacre." A gentle voice came from beside him. Sasuke turned to see a young woman with three-tomo Sharingan, her face pretty and familiar, offering him tissues. As Sasuke took them, about to say thank you, a harsh, almost menacing voice cut through the air. "Uchiha Sasuke. Who is your enemy?" Sasuke whirled around, facing a stern Uchiha man, arms crossed, demanding an answer. Without hesitation, Sasuke clenched his fists, declaring, "Itachi Uchiha. That man. I will kill him with my own hands." The man scrutinized Sasuke, then a cruel smile twisted his lips. "Good. That's a true Uchiha. I look forward to your revenge. So, Uchiha Sasuke, welcome back to the Uchiha clan. I'm Uchiha Zo." Uchiha Jihao had initially been the most resistant to accepting Sasuke, the enemy's brother and sole Konoha survivor. But seeing the raw hunger for vengeance in Sasuke's eyes, he instantly changed his tune and embraced him. Following Hagoromo Anki and Uchiha Zo's lead, the other Uchiha erupted in excited chatter. "I'm Yuka Uchiha. Sasuke, thanks for carrying the torch alone in Konoha all these years." "That's right, Sasuke. Unlike that lowlife Itachi, you're one of us. I see the pride of the Uchiha in your eyes. I, Uchiha Yoko, recognize you. Sasuke, train hard. Join us in killing Itachi Uchiha one day. Avenge our innocent family." Uchiha clan members clapped Sasuke on the back, displaying their true, caring nature. Sasuke, overwhelmed, gazed at his kin. For years, he believed he was the only Uchiha left, alone, isolated, even despairing. That shared experience had bonded him and Naruto, making them kindred spirits, but now Sasuke had come home, a warm, loving, blood-tied home. He was profoundly grateful for his decision to leave the village. "Sasuke, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Revenge isn't everything. You should have a life too." The young woman who offered the tissues spoke with concern. Sasuke looked at her again. She smiled softly. "I'm Uchiha Izumi. Sasuke, do you remember me?" "I remember." Sasuke nodded, a mix of emotions swirling within him. He remembered. Uchiha Izumi was the woman Itachi cared for before everything changed. "You." Sasuke started, unsure how to phrase his question. Uchiha Izumi anticipated his query. Elder Setsuna, aware of the escalating tensions within the village and the clan, and determined to ensure the Uchiha's survival, secretly sent some younger Uchiha away to the Hagoromo clan, our longtime allies, before launching the coup. "We're the chosen ones." It seems the elder was right. "Uchiha Itachi." Uchiha Izumi paused, then, looking directly at Sasuke, she said firmly, "Itachi is Itachi, and you are you. Don't worry about the clan judging you because you're his brother. You're a true Uchiha, just like us. You're a true avenger. My grandmother and mother both died that night, murdered by Uchiha Itachi. I will avenge them. I will." "I understand." Sasuke nodded emphatically. "By the way, can I still call you Sister Izumi?" "Of course." Looking at Uchiha Izumi's warm, familiar smile, feeling the raw pain, grief, and anger emanating from the surviving clan members, Sasuke, realizing that not only his parents, but many others' parents had died tragically, felt his hatred for Uchiha Itachi intensify. "I will avenge the Uchiha clan. I will kill Uchiha Itachi. I swear." Sasuke clenched his fists, forever etching the warm camaraderie of his clan into his heart. This pain must never be allowed to happen again. The Uchiha welcome feast lasted late into the night. Finally, Sasuke, who hadn't smiled so much in years, opened the door, planning to find a quiet place to massage his aching face. Suddenly, sensing something, he looked up. Yuyi Xuanyue stood silently under the moonlit eaves, his back to him. "After the warmth, do you still have the will to pick up the sword?" Yuyi Xuanyue asked without turning. Sasuke's gaze hardened. "Of course. Then, let the trials begin." Yuyi Xuanyue vanished into the night. Sasuke followed without hesitation. Chapter 75 Sarutobi Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo has paid attention to the host. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Night, a training ground in Suachien village. Yuro Gengetsu, standing in the center, watched Sasuke approaching and said casually, "Don't hold back. Give it everything you've got." Sasuke, who used to be all about power and would have charged in without a second thought, now knew Yuro Gengetsu was assessing him before teaching, so, he paused, bowed respectfully, and said, "Thank you for all you've done for the Uchiha clan." From that moment on, he no longer saw himself as an orphan. Yuro Gengetsu waved a hand. It's my duty. Also, he glanced at Sasuke and ordered, starting tomorrow, study the history of the ninja world. Yes, sir. Sasuke now held Yuro Gengetsu in very high regard. If Kakashi told him to review history, he'd probably tell him where to stick it, but because Yuro Gengetsu had ordered it, Sasuke would treat it like a mission. The training ground filled with the sounds of fighting, but it didn't last long before fading into silence. Ding. Main quest, Dominate Ninja School, completed. Congratulations. After a tough battle, you defeated Uchiha Sasuke, top of the class, Uchiha clan prodigy, Sharingan wielder, and reincarnation of Indra. You've gone from zero to hero, dominating the ninja school. But this is just the first step in your comeback. We hope you'll leave this small pond behind and dominate the entire ninja world. Listening to the system's completion notification, Yuyi Xuanyue looked at Sasuke, who was gasping for air and utterly spent after only a few minutes. Yugi hadn't even moved his feet. Another tough battle, he thought, understanding the system's quirks. Yuyi Xuanyue waited. Settlement in progress. Task rewards, resistance to illusions experience, fire style, great fireball technique, fire style, phoenix fire technique, Uchiha fluid technique. Alert. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, is watching you. Warning. Konoha advisor Shimura Danzo is watching you. The rewards didn't surprise him. Ever since the beginner's package offered basic, practical skills instead of instant kill abilities, Yugi knew the system rewarded progress step by step. Defeating a genin wasn't going to unlock Kage-level powers. The harem technique was a special case for the beginner quest. He could basically ignore the fire style techniques and Uchiha fluid technique. The resistance to illusions experience, though, offered some insight into how to resist Sharingan Genjutsu. It wasn't directly useful right now, but the unique perspective might inspire him. So, the system thinks I'm Chunin level now, but better than the instructors at the ninja school. Yuyi Xuanyue mused. Standard Chunin level chakra, Konoha fluid technique, throwing skills, 3-day moon dance sword technique, plus Uchiha fluid technique, and 2 fire ninjutsu. That combination was pretty elite for a Chunin, and dominating the ninja school was a piece of cake. But what was up with Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo? The former was technically dead, or, from the system's perspective, not quite. Seeing it from the system's point of view, it all made sense. Because I'm that good, Sarutobi Hiruzen, with his crystal ball habit, has noticed me. Shimura Danzo, with his network of spies, has also identified me as a promising recruit for Root. Hiruzen, you'll regret this. Danzo, I am the Hokage. Hagoromo Gengetsu could imagine the scene. Hiruzen and Danzo bickering over him in the Hokage's office, ending with Danzo storming out in a rage. Good thing I'm experienced enough to avoid getting tangled up with those 2 old geezers. Hagoromo Gengetsu shook his head and refocused on the present. Sasuke, still struggling, barely managed to stand up. Hagoromo Gengetsu looked at him, frowning slightly. Your foundation is weaker than I thought. He didn't mince words, ignoring Sasuke's sensitive ego. Sasuke clenched his fists, a dark look on his face. It wasn't directed at Yuro Gengetsu, but at his own shortcomings. Despite his arrogance, Sasuke respected strength and was willing to confront his weaknesses instead of burying them. Yuro Gengetsu continued, Konoha Ninja School's training is clearly subpar. A 3-tomo Sharingan shouldn't be this weak. It's far below the 3-tomo Uchiha I've seen. Even a Sharingan-less Madara would beat you. Everyone knew that Uchiha Madara awakened his Sharingan at 15. Compared to Sasuke, who had evolved his Sharingan to 3-tomo at 12, the comparison was between mediocrity and genius, but fighting was never about raw stats. The truth was, a pre-Sharingan Uchiha Madara would wipe the floor with Sasuke. Yuro Gengetsu knew both of them well enough to be certain. You mean the Uchiha Madara? Sasuke's historical knowledge was decent, at least when it came to Uchiha Madara's impact on the Konoha Uchiha clan. Yuyi Xuanyue nodded. After the Uchiha clan's downfall, you've been learning ninjutsu and Sharingan on your own. You've missed a lot of essential skills. Over the next while, let the Uchiha here fill in those gaps. Konoha had profited from the Uchiha clan's demise. After generations of accumulation, land, wealth, and ninjutsu belonged to Konoha. The only thing Uchiha Sasuke inherited was a new house, which was a fortune in and of itself. But that didn't even count what other clan members lost. He hadn't received the clan's full inheritance, nor the systematic training, and his Sharingan usage was crude. If it wasn't for Orochimaru's obsession with the Sharingan and his experiments with forbidden drugs, Sasuke wouldn't have reached his current level. Even with another 10 years, Sasuke wouldn't match a sick Uchiha Itachi. Yuro Gengetsu had no intention of letting Sasuke go down that path. Both the Uchiha and Yuguriko clans had, over centuries, developed the best methods for training talent. Population and resource limitations meant a clan could never match a ninja village's overall strength, but in terms of individual elite education, they far surpassed the teaching quality of the 5 great ninja villages. Chapter 76, Students who can learn after reading it once are good students. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Faced with Yuyi Xuanyue telling him to nail down the basics, Uchiha Sasuke didn't argue. He just got to work. His teacher was Uchiha Izumi, who'd unlocked the 3-tomo Sharingan ages ago, had gone through the full Uchiha elite training program, making her knowledge rock solid across the board. Plus, she was uniquely meticulous, making her the best choice in the Uchiha clan. With that settled, Yuyi Xuanyue, having set Sasuke on the right path, turned his attention to the internal affairs of the Yui clan. As both the spiritual and actual leader, his reappearance swiftly unified the once scattered Yui clans, pulling them back together as one. They were on the path to independence, but had been reunited. As the clan leader, Yuyi Xuanyue had a lot to catch up on, needing to get a handle on the clan's current state and just how much power he had at his fingertips. After all, the benefits of having power behind you had been crystal clear during the search for Shinnong and keeping tabs on Sasuke. Speaking of Shinnong, Yuyi Xuanyue set down the top-secret files on Yui clan members, looked at Ali, who was temporarily serving as his secretary, and asked, "How's Shinnong doing? The one I had you bring back?" "He's secured," Ali replied, looking elegant in a snow-white kimono. "Plus, we've extracted some very important intel from his memory." Ali had already prepared a scroll summarizing Shinnong's information for Yuyi Xuanyue. Yuyi Xuanyue took it and opened it. It contained detailed information on Shinnong's identity as the leader of the Sky Country, the number of Sky Ninja remnants, their weapons, and this zero-tail thing. Yuyi Xuanyue glanced at Ali, who was standing respectfully with her hands clasped in front of her. He thought back to the woman's intel he'd reviewed earlier. This woman, who looked like a perfect traditional Japanese woman, was actually a highly skilled intelligence ninja. Her unique sealing technique that used her eyes was a real head-turner. Yamanaka Inoichi, usually the intelligence pro, had been outsmarted by her. Not only had he failed to gather any useful intel, but she'd also unknowingly copied all of Konoha's confidential information from his mind. This gave Yuyi Xuanyue an even deeper understanding of the current state of affairs in Konoha. The moral of the story: never underestimate anyone. There were always ninjas out there who'd surprise you with their abilities. Let's table the Sky Ninjas for now. No need to make any moves on them yet. Yuyi Xuanyue put down the scroll and shook his head slightly. Even though Shinnong had been captured, the remnants of the Sky Ninjas rarely contacted him to maintain secrecy, so there was no worry of the leader being exposed. Yuyi Xuanyue himself didn't think much of the Sky Ninjas. He'd only approached Shinnong for his medical jutsu. As for the zero-tail, this tailless tail, he didn't even care about the normal-tailed beasts, so why would he care about a zero-tail that was taken down by Naruto and Sasuke? Still, the zero-tail and the Sky Ninjas, with their hatred for Konoha and the 5 great nations, were still a force to be reckoned with. It wouldn't hurt to have this chess piece available when the time was right. For now, they'd been laying low for years without getting caught by the major ninja villages, so let them be. Ali, make some tea. As Ali carefully prepared tea, Yuyi Xuanyue picked up another document and got back to his daily duties as clan leader. 7 days later, on the training ground in Suachian village, Sasuke was weaving through a series of traps at high speed. Kunai, shurikens, and steel wires were flying at him from all angles. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, moving his body with precision, pulling off dodges that ordinary people couldn't even dream of. At the same time, he was pulling out shurikens from his ninja pouch, sending them out in a flurry. He calculated his moves with extreme accuracy, intercepting the incoming kunai and shurikens one by one in mid-air. Clang, 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 the crisp sound of metal on metal was like a beautiful melody, playing out in the air. "That's the Uchiha way," Ali said, clapping her hands lightly. She'd come with Yuyi Xuanyue. Beside her, Uchiha Izumi, a young girl with a calm demeanor, said, "This is the level an Uchiha should be at." Sasuke had made great progress since he first arrived. She had quickly filled the gaps in his skills under her guidance. He really was that guy's younger brother, the same talent. Soon, the dazzling display of ninja tools came to an end. Sasuke stood still, completely unscathed. Around him, within a 10-meter radius, the ground was covered with ninja tools, neatly arranged. "Master Yui," Uchiha Izumi said to Yuyi Xuanyue, "Sasuke's foundation has been re-established. To keep moving forward, he just needs steady training." "I know." Yuyi Xuanyue nodded, walked over to Sasuke, and handed him 2 scrolls without a word. One contains the training method for Chidori style, and the other is research on manipulating fire and lightning chakra. Your task is to master these techniques. If you don't understand something, you can ask me. But I hope you ask as few times as possible. Unlike many teachers who complain when students who know everything don't feel the joy of teaching, Yuyi Xuanyue preferred students to learn on their own. Like, you read it once and you get it. Samui was like that. You only needed to say something once or twice, and she'd pick it up and understand it completely. He thought Sasuke would be the same. "Thank you, Master Yui. I won't let you down." Sasuke was polite and respectfully accepted the 2 scrolls, which were worth their weight in gold. In this short time, he'd felt progress he'd never experienced in Konoha, and that was without Yuyi Xuanyue directly guiding him. He was even more eager to learn the knowledge that Yuyi Xuanyue was going to impart. Sasuke knew that these were the tools he'd need to defeat Uchiha Itachi. "Wait, Itachi. One day, I'll avenge my parents, Sister Kwan's mother and grandmother, Brother's parents, and all the Uchiha who died that night," Sasuke vowed in his heart, his eyes burning with hatred. "Keep it up." Although Itachi would lose to Sasuke in the end regardless of his strength, Yuro Gengetsu wouldn't say it out loud to hurt his morale. After patting Sasuke on the shoulder, Yuro Gengetsu disappeared from the spot. After that, he appeared in front of a cemetery. After standing there for a long time again, Yuro Gengetsu withdrew his thoughts and returned to reality. Now things have been dealt with almost completely. After finishing the last few things, it's time to set off and go to Konoha. Chapter 77: The Ancestor Who Is Not Weaker Than Yuyi Xuanyue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding-ling-ling, the wind chimes, a farewell serenade for departing relatives, swayed on the steel bridge. This is far enough. Yuyi Xuanyue, adjusting his bamboo hat, waved goodbye to Mu Ting and the others, dressed for travel. "Clan head, are you sure you don't want anyone to come with you? At least a couple of us. One to handle the day-to-day stuff, the other for errands?" Mu Ting asked, glancing at Ali and Uchiha Kwan, the 2 women specifically assigned to him. Yuyi Xuanyue waved off his subordinate's concern. "I'm sneaking into Konoha, not going there for a vacation." Besides, Ali was already on Konoha's radar, and Uchiha Kwan, that last name, Uchiha, meant she could never go back. Ali, hearing this, kept her gentle smile, just like old times. She anticipated Yuyi Xuanyue's needs and fulfilled them without being told. Uchiha Kwan's thoughts raced. "It's been so long. The Konoha folks probably wouldn't even recognize me. If she could, she'd love to visit her mother's, grandmother's, and the clan's graves herself. All these years, only Sasuke ever visited their graves." Yuyi Xuanyue shook his head. Women might change a lot as they grow, but he wouldn't underestimate the dedicated ninjas of Konoha. "Patience. One day, you'll go back." Yuyi Xuanyue lowered the veil on his hat, offered a final farewell, and left Suachien village, setting a course for Konoha. The goal of this trip was twofold: find Konoha's medical ninjutsu to completely solve the immortal chakra problem, a condition worsened after decades under the influence of forbidden techniques, and to achieve spiritual fulfillment. No doubt about it, Konoha was a goldmine. It was worth Yuyi Xuanyue's repeated visits. "Don't worry, Hashirama. This time, I'll bring your spirit with me to see Konoha. I'll put flowers on your grave and give you an update. Don't thank me. I'm just the only one left from our time. Hagoromo Xianyue sighed inwardly, dissolving into a black blur and weaving through the dense forest. Meanwhile, not far away in the same forest, 4 ninjas, not affiliated with any of the 5 great nations, also moved swiftly, but their destination wasn't Konoha. Faster. We've finally pinpointed the one-tailed Jinchuriki. We can't let him get away. Remember, Hagoromo Xuanyue has been confirmed to be back. That means the resurrection of our Qingming ancestor isn't just a legend. A man named Baogoe exclaimed, clearly thrilled. The only woman among them, Konkei, clenched her fists. We're going to bring back our founding ancestor. The village's long-held dream will be realized in our hands. No more being a small-time ninja village, building tools for the 5 greats day in and day out. Our ancestor will lead us to glory, conquer the 5 greats, and rule the ninja world. What are we waiting for? Let's go kill that one-tailed brat, Gaara, and resurrect the ancestor. Longyan, who called Gaara a brat, laughed with arrogance. Finally, the bulky Shuehu spoke steadily. Even though Sand Village is unstable right now, and the one-tailed Jinchuriki's defenses are down, we can't underestimate a tailed beast. We need a solid plan before we move. Baogoe, Konkei, Longyan, Shuehu, these were the 4 celestial elephants of their ninja village. As masters of ninja tool forging, they were reasonably well known. The reason for their assembly was to target the oft-victimized Sand Village and its one-tailed Jinchuriki. The confirmation of Hagoromo Gengetsu's resurrection had spurred them into action, reigniting their decades-dormant plan to revive their own ancestor. The key to success was a huge chakra source to charge the ritual. A tailed beast was the obvious choice. However, the artisan ninja village and the 4 celestial elephants weren't strong enough to find and defeat a Jinchuriki from one of the major villages. But this time, with Sand Village in turmoil, the one-tailed Jinchuriki was out on a mission, and a child at that, making him potentially the weakest of them all. Armed with this information, the 4 celestial elephants had dusted off their suppressed revival plan and were now making another go at it. Success meant escaping the grinding life of constant toolmaking for the 5 greats, with no rest and low pay. Imagining their brighter future, Baogoe nodded decisively. Suehu's right. We need to be absolutely sure about capturing the one-tailed Jinchuriki. Let's observe first. See if this Gaara kid has any weaknesses. Is that even necessary? The 4 of us could just jump him, Longyan said, confidence in his advanced ninja tools shining through. Konkei nodded seriously. It's necessary. 3 to 1, the plan was approved. Longyan grudgingly played with the Longyan Yali dark knife in his hand. Then, he wondered aloud, since they're from the same era, who was stronger, our ancestor or Yuyi Xuanyue? Baogoe, filled with admiration for his ancestor, replied immediately, the ancestor, no question. But, Hagoromo Xianyue was way more famous back then, Longyan countered, serious as ever. Baogoe hesitated, and Peacock quickly jumped in. That's because the founder didn't care about fame. He focused on creating the ultimate ninja tool. Otherwise, his reputation would have been right up there with Hagoromo Gengetsu and Senju Hashirama. Exactly. Baogoe added, regaining his composure. If the ancestor wasn't certain, he wouldn't have told the village that he was coming back. When he does, we'll be declaring war on the 5 great ninja villages. He wouldn't make such a bold claim without the strength to back it up, right? Right. Longyan's eyes shone with newfound certainty, eager to witness his ancestor's power. Suddenly, Shuehu, who had been silent until now, spoke. Someone's coming. Baogoe frowned slightly. Ignore it. The mission comes first. This guy's got a ton of chakra. Shuehu exclaimed, touching the infinite whole armor that could absorb chakra. His eyes widened. Baogoe realized what this could mean, and his own eyes lit up. Stop. Surround him. The 4 celestial elephants moved instantly. Hagoromo Genzuki looked up to see 4 ninjas wearing unfamiliar forehead protectors, closing in with anticipation. Thanks to the book friend call Dad in bed for the 500 reward. Chapter 78 I am back, and I will conquer the 5 great nations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm not sure if those 4 knuckleheads checked their horoscope before heading out. Yuyi Xuanyue was minding his own business when he suddenly noticed the 4 ninjas who'd been lagging behind had circled back and were closing in on him like he was dinner. Is it open season on wandering ninjas now? Yuyi Xuanyue tipped his bamboo hat up, sized up the 4 guys clutching weird ninja tools, and shook his head calmly. They couldn't tell who was under the bamboo hat, but Shuehu, thinking they'd hit the jackpot, patted the infinite whole armor on his chest, an armor that could absorb and sense chakra, and said excitedly, "That's the one. My armor's pinging off the charts with his chakra levels. He's exactly what we need for the plan." "Seriously? Awesome." Baogue laughed. "It's like a gift from the heavens. Talk about destiny, that it was like finding a $20 bill in your old coat." The 4 ninjas never thought they'd stumble across someone who could kickstart their ancestors' resurrection plan while they were just wandering through the woods. Sure, the guy in front of them had a ton of chakra, which probably meant he was tough, but so what? Compared to going up against a Jinchuriki or tangling with Sand Village, one of the 5 great ninja villages, these 4 would rather take their chances with a random stranger, no matter who he was or where he came from. Once they took him down in the middle of nowhere, nobody would be the wiser. What are we waiting for? Let's grab this guy and bring back the ancestor. Longyen yelled, drawing his Longyen Yali Andao sword. Resurrection. Yuyi Xuanyue was about to swat these flies away when he heard one of them mention resurrection. He couldn't help but get curious. Sounds like you guys are planning to bring someone back from the dead. Hearing this, Baogue, who was secretly getting ready to attack, gave Konkei a look. Peacock got the message, stuck his chin out, and said smugly, "Stranger, you should be honored to be a part of our ancestors' resurrection." Yuyi Xuanyue chuckled. "You can't just resurrect any Tom, Dick, or Harry." He'd just run into some random people on the road, and they were talking about bringing back their ancestor. When did resurrection become so commonplace? It was cheapening the whole concept. Hearing Yuyi Xuanyue say that, Peacock got angry. "Ignorant fool. Our ancestor was a legend, up there with Yuyi Xuanyue and Senju Hashirama. If Yuyi Xuanyue could be resurrected, then so can our ancestor. Like me?" Yuyi Xuanyue stroked his chin. Beside Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, he'd never heard of anyone reaching his level of fame back in the day. "What's this ancestor's name?" Yuyi Xuanyue asked, curious. Maybe there really were some hidden heavyweights in the ninja world he didn't know about. Peacock was about to answer when Baogue suddenly clapped his hands. "Ninja tool, iron prison, clang clang clang." In an instant, super strong steel bars shot out of the ground around Yuyi Xuanyue, forming an airtight, oval-shaped steel cage, trapping him inside. "Got him. I didn't think it would be this easy." Seeing that Yuyi Xuanyue was locked up, Baogue sighed with relief. Longyen casually sheathed his Longyen Yali dark knife. "What? I thought we were in for a fight. Guess this guy was a pushover. Hurry up and revive the ancestor." Konkei said impatiently. Baogue was about to agree when a voice came from inside the steel cage. "So, now you'll tell me who this ancestor is?" Yuyi Xuanyue tapped on the steel bars trapping him, shrugged, and asked, not really worried. Hearing the calm voice from inside the cage, Baogue felt a twinge of unease. He shook his head and said coldly, "You'll see soon enough." Baogue then started weaving hand signs. The next second, the iron prison started to shake. Yuyi Xuanyue felt the chakra in his body being sucked away by the 4 iron walls. "Guess you need a chakra-powered resurrection ceremony, huh?" Yuyi Xuanyue watched calmly. He wanted to see what this whole resurrecting the ancestor thing was all about. Maybe someone had actually cracked the code for resurrection. He could break out of this trap the 4 stooges had set up any time he wanted. As if they heard his thoughts, the 4 didn't keep him waiting long. Soon. Seeing the iron prison glowing with a large amount of blue chakra, Baogue didn't hesitate. He slammed his hands on the ground, summoning a coffin. "Master, hear our call and be reborn." Guided by Baogue, the absorbed chakra flowed into the coffin. With a bang, the coffin lid flew open, revealing an old corpse for everyone to see. Yuyi Xuanyue took a look. Who's this guy? That he thought he might recognize this ancestor they were so proud of, but after staring for a while, he drew a blank. The four ninjas were still going. After pumping a ton of chakra into the ancestor's body, the four formed hand seals at the same time. The next second, the four high-level ninja tools, the Dragon Ifongli Dark Blade, the Infinite Whole Armor, the Peacock Twin Swords, and the Light Sword, flew off on their own and landed on the ancestor's body. Not only that, but Baogue even performed the Moku Bird's secret technique, sacrificing his own life without hesitation. After a flash of blinding white light, the coffin vanished. In its place stood a figure wearing the four ninja tools, Dragon Ifongli Dark Blade, Infinite Whole Armor, Peacock Twin Swords, and Light Sword, and looked much younger. Years of hard work have finally paid off. Ninja World, I'm back. The ancestor of the artisan ninja village, a man named Qingming, opened his eyes, looked around, and said emotionally. Hearing this, Peacock, Longyan, and Shuehu immediately knelt on one knee, their eyes filled with zeal and reverence, saying, "Welcome back, Ancestor Qingming." Qingming looked at the three, nodded with satisfaction, and said, "My descendants, you have done well. From today onward, I will lead the artisan ninja village to conquer the 5 great nations and reach the pinnacle of the ninja world." Peacock, Longyan, and Shuehu were shaking with excitement, just as he promised before he died. The day their ancestor returned was the day the artisan ninja village would reach the top. The three were so moved they were about to declare their loyalty when an inappropriate chuckle echoed across the scene. Qingming and Peacock turned to look. Yuyi Xuanyue, still in the steel prison, was smirking. Conquer the 5 great nations? Qingming. That's interesting. Now I remember who you are. Chapter 79. Please do not lower the level of resurrection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There wasn't a craftsman ninja village back in the Warring States period. You had craftsmen who specialized in making ninja tools for the big ninja clans, but these guys were scattered and didn't really have a place. Hagoromo Jinzuki remembered Qingming. Someone in the clan who handled buying ninja tools had mentioned a craftsman named Qingming who was super skilled and had great prices. They suggested buying more stuff from him in the future. He just nodded and hadn't thought much of it. That was pretty much all he knew about Qingming. He'd heard the name mentioned once, but they'd never actually met. Hagoromo Xuanyue glanced at the peacock. So, what was this legendary figure doing with the same name as him and Senja Hashirama? Right then, Hagoromo Gengetsu truly understood how future generations could exaggerate his ancestors' deeds, twisting history. How dare you talk nonsense when you're about to die? Peacock glared at Hagoromo Xuanyue, wanting to teach the old man a lesson for being so rude. Qingming stopped her, looking at Hagoromo Xuanyue, who was wearing a bamboo hat, and said, "I figured my power would come from a tailed beast, but it came from a human. Good on you, kid. Do you know who I am?" "No. Hearing someone mention your name doesn't mean I know you." As Hagoromo Xuanyue spoke, he walked over to the steel prison. "The show's about over. I get your resurrection act. Time to shut this down." Hagoromo Xuanyue held out a finger, and scorching lava flowed out, melting the steel prison. The 3 peacocks were about to jump Hagoromo Xuanyue for being disrespectful to the ancestor. *ZZZZZZZ star. The sound of high-temperature melting filled the air. Their eyes widened in disbelief as the steel prison instantly melted, creating a huge hole. No way. Shuehu knew how strong that prison was. There was no way someone inside could break it open so easily. Qingming frowned, trying to absorb more of Hagoromo Xuanyue's chakra, but it didn't work as planned. Instead of taking chakra from Hagoromo Gengetsu, he got a massive surge back from him. Qingming, floating in the air, started shaking. He frowned and cut off the connection to the prison. Soon, the steel prison was a puddle of molten iron on the ground. Hagoromo Xuanyue stepped out, calm as ever. Thump. 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 Star. The footsteps were light, but they put the 3 peacocks on edge. Even with the powerful Qingming at their side, they couldn't shake the pressure. "Who are you?" Qingming asked, now serious, realizing something was wrong. "Who am I? Take a look. But could you have recognized me, back then?" As Hagoromo Xianyue spoke, a breeze lifted the brim of his bamboo hat, revealing his young face. The three peacocks visibly trembled, shocked. Long Yen, usually so cocky, stammered. You're Hagoromo. He was a senior member of a small ninja village, and there had been a statue of Hagoromo Gengetsu for years. They'd seen authentic portraits of Hagoromo Genzuki, especially since his resurrection had caused such a stir. They knew what he looked like, but they never thought they'd actually meet the Hagoromo Genzuki everyone was talking about, the one who had inspired this whole trip. They treated him like prey. The legend lived, despair washed over the remaining 3 of the 4 elephants. You're Hagoromo Gengetsu? Qingming's face twitched as he asked in disbelief. He hadn't seen Hagoromo Xianyue back in the day, but during the Warring States period, you had to know who not to mess with if you wanted to survive and protect your family. Hagoromo Gengetsu, Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara, they were the top guys to avoid, because of their power and strength. Even though the old portraits were crude, Qingming recognized something familiar about Hagoromo Genzuki the moment he saw him, and when Long Yen said Hagoromo, it clicked. He shuddered and understood everything. Hagoromo Xianyue. Aren't you supposed to be dead? How can you be alive? Qingming didn't get it. Water Tiger jumped in. Like you, ancestor, Hagoromo Xianyue was resurrected recently. He was resurrected too? Qingming asked, surprised. Resurrection? Don't cheapen the word. Hagoromo Xianyue shook his head, looking at Qingming. Qingming, right? You know your real self is long gone. What's standing here is just a special ninja tool, carrying Qingming's will and memories, and the name of Qingming. Hagoromo Xianyue, who'd been through resurrection himself, knew how hard it was. The 4 elephants weren't actually resurrecting a person. Qingming was here because his body was a weapon Qingming made himself, transforming his own body. The 4 elephants had activated the ultimate ninja tool that Qingming had created, passed down as lore in their village. Hearing this, Qingming was silent. Then, he said, Qingming's biggest dream was to get rid of his useless body and become the ultimate ninja tool. He succeeded. So yes, I am Qingming. It all made sense. The 4 celestial elephants resurrected the ultimate ninja tool that held Qingming's essence. These days, even toads could learn jutsu, so a talking ninja tool wasn't shocking. In a way, it was Qingming's rebirth. Hagoromo Xianyue, we're both from the past. Want to team up and conquer the current ninja world? Qingming suddenly asked. He'd been rattled by the name Hagoromo Xianyue at first, but now he was a powerful ninja tool, no longer the powerless craftsman he once was. He didn't need to fear anyone, hence the offer. He remembered Hagoromo Xianyue having issues with the 5 great nations. Team up. Conquer the ninja world. Hagoromo Xianyue looked at Qingming, surprised, and laughed. Are you overestimating yourself? Besides, I'd rather kill you than team up with some nobody. If some weakling like you got beat by a bunch of regular ninja, it would hurt my reputation as a true resurrectionist, wouldn't it? Chapter 80 The name of the second emperor must not be tarnished. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The great emperor's reputation from his past life was not to be sullied. Now that Yuyi Xuanyue had run into Qingming, a second-rate resurrectionist who didn't know what he was up against, he wasn't about to let him escape and make a fool of himself. Besides, if he remembered correctly, Qingming and his goons had planned to use him as a human battery. Yuyi Xuanyue cut the chit-chat, lowered his bamboo hat, and headed straight for Qingming and his crew. He seemed to stroll along without a care in the world, but it was enough to spook Peacock, Longyen, and Shuehu, sending them stumbling backward in fear. What's with the jitters? I'm here. Qingming barked. So what if he's back from the dead? This ain't the Warring States era anymore. It's the age of the artisan ninja village and cutting-edge ninja tech. Hearing their revered ancestors' words, Peacock and the others looked at each other, ashamed of their earlier cowardice. Bolstered by a surge of confidence, they vowed to make a strong impression on their leader. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh, star. They may not have had any ninja tools, but the 3 were sure they could hold their own against Yuyi Xuanyue for a bit. They surged forward, taking the offensive. Roar, Up with a shout to pump himself up, Xuehu threw a haymaker. Yuyi Xuanyue didn't even glance his way, simply catching the punch with his left hand. Xuehu tried to pull away. Suddenly, his face contorted in horror. The chakra in his body surged like a broken dam, rushing into Yuyi Xuanyue's palm. Xuehu, who'd always been the one draining others, never imagined he'd end up on the receiving end. Without so much as a peep, he collapsed into a heap, tossing Xuehu aside like garbage. Yuyi Xuanyue casually absorbed the chakra of Peacock and Longyan, who were rushing head-on into the fray. Then, he continued toward Qingming at the same unhurried pace. Seeing Yuyi Xuanyue treat him like he wasn't even there, Qingming felt a pang of dread, like he'd been thrown back to the Warring States period, trembling before a ninja's blade, his eyes filled with fear and anxiety. No. This isn't the Warring States era anymore. I, Qingming, have evolved into the ultimate ninja weapon. I don't need to be afraid of anyone. Everyone should be afraid of me. Qingming's face twisted with rage as he threw his arms wide. Thousand fierce winds. A shrill whistle ripped through the air, a raging tornado, fueled by the ultimate ninja tool, roared towards Yuyi Xuanyue, who kept advancing step by step. Yuyi Xuanyue barely raised an eyebrow and threw a punch. Boom, star, like hitting a brick wall, the tornado instantly dissipated. How could that be? Qingming couldn't believe his ninjutsu had been swatted aside so easily. Again. Wind style, blast cannon, .3 baseball-sized, high-density blasts of compressed wind screamed towards Yuyi Xuanyue as Qingming waved his hand. Yuyi Xuanyue flexed his right hand, and 3 casual punches completely obliterated the blast cannons. Why? Why is he so strong? I've fought ninjas from the Warring States era. Qingming began to question everything. Still, as Yuyi Xuanyue closed the distance, he mustered his courage. The dragon eye fangs he kept behind him, fueled by his chakra, transformed into 3 whip-like dragon and snake swords, lashing out at Yuyi Xuanyue from all sides. Yuyi Xuanyue simply shook his head and took a step forward with his right foot. In the blink of an eye, all the dragon eye fangs missed. Before Qingming could react, Yuyi Xuanyue appeared in front of him like he'd teleported, pressing his right palm against his chest. He said softly, "Craftsmen should stick to their craft and stop with the pipe dreams." Then, he exerted force. Qingming didn't even have time to gasp before he was sent flying backward at breakneck speed, like he'd been hit by a semi-truck. Boom boom boom, Trees snapped in half, deep trenches appeared in the ground. After skidding back nearly 100 yards, Qingming finally came to a stop, half buried in the mud. Though ninja tools weren't supposed to feel pain, seeing the gaping hole in his chest, the chest of the ultimate ninja tool, Qingming shook his head in disbelief. Impossible. Impossible. I haven't conquered the ninja world yet. I haven't spread the gospel of ultimate ninja tech to every corner of the land. How can I fall here? No. There's still a chance. Chakra. I need more chakra. Qingming refused to go down. Suddenly, a hand settled on his shoulder. Your chakra was mine to begin with. Yuyi Xuanyue whispered in Qingming's ear. In the next instant, as Qingming struggled in vain, the chakra coursing through the ultimate ninja tool was rapidly drained. Clang, star, Qingming, his metallic body dull and lifeless, slumped to the ground like a deactivated robot, unable to get back up. Qingming, being not quite human, didn't truly die, unless the ultimate ninja tool was destroyed. Simply draining his chakra would only put him in standby. Yuyi Xuanyue didn't kill Qingming, even though the guy's strength and boasts didn't quite line up. He was still a rare specimen. Besides, his craftsmanship was top-notch. If he handed him over to the Yuyi clan, their ninja tools could take a giant leap forward. Having lived a second life, Yuyi Xuanyue was starting to act like a concerned old dad, wanting to leave something behind for the clan, like Shinon, who was outstanding in medical treatment, and now Qingming, who was exceptional with ninja tools. He figured it was a way to make up for his failings as clan leader back in the day. As for whether Qingming might be disobedient or even rebellious, please. The so-called ultimate ninja tool was only Jonin level, and wouldn't stand a chance in the Yuyi clan's base. Oh yeah, there were still those remaining 3 celestial foursomes. He hadn't given them much thought, but they seemed a little salty. Might as well round them up and take them too. As far as consumables go, ninja tools eat up a huge chunk of a ninja's budget. With these 4 highly skilled craftsmen joining Suachin village, the Yui clan's finances could definitely use the boost. Yuyi Xuanyue hung around for a bit, waiting for the Yui clan members he'd summoned to haul away Qingming and the 3 celestial foursomes. Then, he continued on his way towards Konoha. Unbeknownst to him, thousands of miles away, Orochimaru, looking worse for wear, was grinding his teeth and seething. Hagoromo Gengetsu. After finally shaking off the art duo who had been chasing him, he'd finally figured out who had snatched Sasuke, his chosen vessel. Then he thought about his deal with Tsunade, who also profited from it. Orochimaru was filled with regret. Why had he allowed Hagoromo Gengetsu to be resurrected with impure world reincarnation? Was this old geezer destined to be his nemesis? Orochimaru secretly vowed. Just you wait. One day, you'll pay for everything.